All right. Happy August 2021. Really excited about this broadcast submission. This is the second month of our fiscal year, but it is the first video update. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at, kind of our new basket of stocks. Going to talk about what the new portfolios look like, and then we'll also go through our current holdings. All right, just want to reiterate, just in case this is your first time seeing this, Texas Investments is an investment club uh, in Dallas, Texas. And the purpose of the investment club is to earn while you learn. So I started this in officially 2015. I had the idea for it though back in 2009, 2010. Is when I really started working on the software for it. And basically, the idea was there was a lot of people that I knew personally that I knew needed to be involved in the market, but they didn't have the money to do so because, if you only have, $100 to invest, I mean, honestly, there's just not a lot that you can do with that. And so my thinking was, well, I have the cash, and if they simply just put their $100 with mine, then we can both benefit from the same returns. The other thing was that in the industry, and it's still this way, in order to have actual professional personally manage your portfolio, you'll have to be an accredited investor. And the reason why is because by law, financial advisors can only charge 2% of the gross portfolio if you are an unaccredited investor. Okay, so accredited investor means that you have a net worth of $1 million or $750,000 in cash. Um, Sometimes you can get away with less depending on the situation, but for the most part, that X's out a lot of people, right? And so what you end up with in the industry, the way it is now, is that you have a bunch of funds. And so what that means is that a lot of cash gets funneled into these big financial investment companies, and they're just throwing the money into the market. Now they come up with tons of different names for stuff. The silliest one is where they give you a target date, which happens a lot when you have like a 401k or whatever through your job, where they'll say, "What is your target date for retirement?" And that's ridiculous. That's not a way to invest your money ever. Um, Sometimes they have these risk tolerance profiles where they're asked, well, do you want to invest really risky or moderately risky or not risky at all? Um, that can actually make a difference in how you invest and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what you want is you want that pointed investor. You want I wish I could call out some names right now, but there's some big names in the industry that invest for people, right? So meaning you give them your money and they make as much money as they can, and they get paid commission, right? But you can only get paid commission if, like I said, you're dealing with an accredited investor. And if you're being paid on commission, then you're more likely to make more money for the person. Not only that, but you're specifically investing for this person. You're not just, if you open up any fund, there's going to be, man, sometimes 100, a lot of times more companies in that fund. And I tell people all the time, it's like betting on every football team every Sunday. I mean, sure, there's going to be some winners, right? But then there's going to be a bunch of losers. And so the idea is why not put your money in the best companies and not just all over the place. And so that's the purpose of Texas Investments. It is It is a love for me. It's a passion. I've been involved in the markets now for about 13 years, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Um, so anyway, there is a charitable side to this as well. Children below the age of 18, I take 2% of my gross revenue for the year, and I divide that amongst the children. It doesn't cost them anything to get started. And the idea is to give children something that I didn't have growing up. My mom put aside, I think, like $5 a month for me as a kid, and when I graduated, she basically gave me access to the account. It's like a savings account, and I remember it was only maybe like $200-300 in there, and I kind of did the math, and I was thinking, Mama must have dipped in here a couple times, but I thought that was a really cool thing because I've never asked anything of my mom. If anything, I wanted to take as much off of her as possible, and so I've always wanted to do the same thing for my children, and so again, that is the purpose of this investment club on the charitable side, right? So each year, the kids get some money, we put into the account, and instead of just putting in a savings account where it gets like no interest whatsoever, we invest that into the market and we let that money grow, and so that's kind of what we want to do, and we want to keep at it. So let's get into our current holdings. Right now, we are in Best Buy. We are up about 12% on that position. We do have a sell signal. The Best Buy has been doing really well for us. I don't have an earnings call yet. I will definitely have an earnings call, I believe, next month for them. The last earnings call that I read through, they just kept talking about, I think like something like, again, 60% of their business is coming from online orders. And they're still complaining about inventory not being in the stores. The last time I was at a Best Buy, it was definitely frustrating for me because, like I said, they don't have everything in the store. Sure, I can order it online and have it shipped, but I personally, for a lot of things actually, I like to go in the store and see it, try it, look at it, and comparison shop that way. I do for sure comparison shop online, but I like going into the store and seeing it as well. And so a lot of times you go into Best Buy and the product is just not there. It's just not there. So that is a struggle right now. I think I mentioned this in the last video because I think that was the last earnings call I went through. They are instituting a new membership program where they're going to be charging money, and you're supposed to be able to get like discounts or something like that. So, like I said, they're doing pretty good. We're up in a position. As you can see, the program is calling for 100 shares. We only have 70. I don't think it's necessary to purchase anymore at the moment. And we'll talk a little bit about what our new portfolio is calling for, which will make a difference. All right, Rogers Communication, doing fairly well for us. We're up about 5% on a position. Right now, I have our threshold at 10%. That's definitely kind of my target right now is that 10%. We're up 5%, so we can definitely sell at a profit for sure. Rogers Communication has been doing really, really good. They still don't have everyone back in the stadiums in Canada, but I think it's kind of starting to trickle in. And so if you remember from previous videos, Rogers Communication owns Toronto Blue Jays. They also own a piece, if not most, of the Toronto Raptors, as well as the hockey team. I forget I think the Toronto Flyers or something. I forget. But anyway, and so the way that this works is not only do they make money from the team, but it's mostly like TV licensing, right? And then it's advertising inside of the stadium. That's the big part. Now, those sports teams are not the biggest part of their business, but it is a part of the business. Rogers Communication is a huge telecommunications company, phone company in Canada. The few times I've been to Canada, I've always purchased Rogers SIM cards to use up there. They are rolling out 5G, no different than companies here in the States. And they just ended an option to purchase even more bandwidth in Canada. They're also talking about building out more telecommunications lines as well as towers, right? The biggest issue in Canada is that most of the population lives in the south, right, close to the U.S. border, but you do still have persons in the northern reaches of Canada, and so the question is always, does it make sense to spend money to bring phone communications out there, right? And then there's also kind of a governmental risk and regulation risk to this because there's only about 3 or 4 companies in Canada as far as phone companies, 3, 4, maybe 5 at the most. And so you do have some pressure of saying, hey, we allow you guys to operate, but, you got to also be putting money back into the country as well and make sure that persons have access to telecommunications. So that's always a thing. But like I said, man, they've been doing good and been doing good for us. I do want to mention just really quick, I don't think I've talked about this before, because it is a Canadian company, we do pay foreign tax on the dividends that we receive. And so I've been booking those as commissions because I didn't want to have a category just for foreign tax. When we file our tax returns at the end of the year, that foreign tax is tax deductible, so that's really cool. But as you see it here, I have it listed as commissions, basically. Okay, but we don't really have a commission on Rogers Communications. All right, Xcel Energy. I just got an earnings call for these guys a couple of days ago. They're doing really good. They have increased their prices in pretty much every market that they're in. They have a case pending in Texas and I believe Minnesota as well. If you don't know, the way that utility companies work is that they are quasi, what's the word I'm looking for? Quasi-governmental entities. Kind of like telecommunications companies too, but more so with utility companies, because utility companies have to go to the state that they're operating in and ask the state how much money they can charge their customers, right? So every year, every couple of years, they have to go to the state and say, hey, we need to increase our prices, and then the state says yay or nay and tells them by how much they can increase it. Xcel Energy targets about a 10% return. When they do go after those price hikes, and I think right now they are at 10% across the board. There maybe Colorado maybe like 9%, but everywhere else I believe they're about 10%. The other thing about Xcel Energy that I really like is that they have this mission where they call it Steel for Fuel, right? And so what that means is they're spending money on wind power, which, that's steel, right? They're spending money on wind power in order to make electricity. They're reducing their coal factories. I think as of right now, they may still have at the most 5 coal plants, okay? And they're looking to get rid of all of them. I think they have 2 that they're going to get rid of, I believe, by 2023. Their earnings call said that they expect to be 80% renewable energy, 85% renewable energy by 2023. So that's a big deal. They got solar projects. They have a lot of wind projects. They do have some nuclear plants, and there's also the natural gas because remember they're working in states that have a lot of energy consumption. So Texas, they're blowing the AC during the summertime, 24/7. Up in Minnesota, of course, you know they're wanting to get their heat, and so that's one of the things on the horizon that that is going to affect everyone industry wide, right? Is that gas emissions, right? The natural gas emissions is something that's coming under scrutiny, and so there's a couple states that have actually sought to pass some bills to reduce the emissions from gas plants. But either way, like I said, I mean, Xcel Energy, I think they are sincere in what they're doing, and they've definitely put a lot of money and effort into basically not being carbon neutral, but like getting rid of fossil fuels completely with their utilities. So anyway, we are up about 7% on that position. The program is calling for 122 shares. We currently have 15, and so right now we are in cash crunch. We only have about maybe $5,000. Well, no, $3,500 in cash available. So we literally cannot afford to purchase 100 shares of Xcel Energy. Maybe we can sell some stuff to get some more cash to make some moves. But as of right now, I think we're going to stay where we are. Like I said, we'll also take a look at what our new portfolio is calling for. Uh-oh. All right. Valero, gas stations. We program is calling for 16 shares. We currently have 115 at $76. We are currently down in our position, not quite at that 10% number to give us a buy signal. But I don't expect us to purchase anything anytime soon. Valero Energy does have an earnings call out. Just haven't gotten to it yet. I'll definitely be reading through that in the next couple of days. But again, they've been a really great company for us, really great position. We like where we are. And I can tell you right now that Valero is part of the new portfolio. So we're definitely going to hold on to one thing, like I say, we're kind of in a cash crunch right now. So one thing that is interesting here is that we actually purchased 15 shares at $60. Okay, and the price right now, I believe, is like 65 or 66. So technically, we can sell 15 shares at a profit just to get us some more cash. But I'll talk about that maybe in another video. Talk about cash management. All right, Campbell Soup. Campbell Soup programs call for 25 shares. We currently have 20. We are down about 9% in that position. We do not have a buy signal yet. That gets triggered at 10%. Decent dividend, decent company. They have struggled to say the least. They have, I mean, man. I went through the earnings call and I mean, listen, they're trying. That's all I can say. Part of the reason why the price action has not been great is because whenever they report their earnings, it's being compared to last year's earnings, right? They always talk about a year over year increase or decrease. They talk about a quarter to quarter, and that makes sense, right? I mean, if you want to compare how you're doing, if you want to know how you're doing right now, the only way to do that is to compare it to how you were doing before, right? And so part of the problem is that Campbell Soup was doing so well during the pandemic because people went out and bought a bunch of canned goods and stuff like that. People were cooking at home. And so now that we're kind of returning to normal, the numbers this year just do not compare to last year. They just don't, and they won't, right? Last time I talked about Campbell Soup, I mentioned their snack brand, but I didn't know the name, and I know it now. It's Cape Cod. And so personally, I like Cape Cod potato chips. I really do. They also own Cheez-Its, which I did know. So that was really cool. So, I mean, those are kind of staples in the snack aisle at gas stations, at grocery stores. Personally, I love Cape Cod chips. Honestly, I don't buy them often. I kind of look forward to those road trips, when you're kind of forced to buy gas station snacks, and I always look for the Cape Cod brand, specifically the salt and vinegar. But and the Cheez-Its, I mean, man, I've loved Cheez-Its all my life. Kids love them, and it kind of makes sense because it goes hand in hand with their soups. Uh, just recently, Campbell Soup came out with an NFT for their canned labels. Is that right? Labels on cans. They're just trying anything and everything to kind of break into the market, and I don't know what it's going to take, but it's definitely marketing, right? I mean, Campbell Soup has been around for a long time. I've said this before, but the marketing campaign that they had with the NFL, I think was great, and they just haven't had anything like that since. So hopefully the marketing team comes up with something. No one has really asked that question. I really wish I was an analyst on the call so I can ask that question. Like, what are you guys thinking about marketing? What are you looking at to really push this thing forward? Because it's like Campbell Soup is boring right now. Even though it's a staple, people know it, but it's boring. Like no one's excited about it. All right, Merck. Merck is the quintessential um, uh, cancer drug company, and they also have a partnership with a smaller company to make a COVID drug, not a vaccine, but an actual drug that they're thinking is going to be used as a prophylactic and something that can possibly be taken, like, shortly after you've been exposed to COVID. Um, every biopharma company has been taking money from the government to do the research on this COVID stuff, and every single last one of them have something in the pipeline. Where it's going to go, what's going to happen, I don't know. Whether or not it'll really move the needle, I think if it's a big news story, yes. Um, but I'm not betting my money on it. What I'm more interested in are the great numbers that Merck is putting up. I mean, honestly, I don't know why the price isn't much better. I really don't, honestly, because man, when you go through the earnings call, like their year over year increase in like animal drugs and cancer drugs is like 20%, 20% growth. Their biggest drug right now is Keytruda, which is a cancer drug. Primarily for lung cancer. And that thing is growing like wildfire. They've been complaining over the uh, last year really about COVID stopping people from going to the doctor, and so doctors aren't prescribing the drugs and stuff like that. Well, that's changing. People are starting to make appointments and get back to the doctor and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, they're growing like 20%. That's pretty awesome. At some point, they will lose exclusivity to Keytruda, which, like I said, is their biggest drug going on right now. Um, they always have, you know, um, they always have new drugs in the pipeline. I think the CEO said they have like 90 drugs right now in the pipeline at different points in the approval process. And so we'll see. It's always, I think, a crapshoot. I enjoy reading and learning about the different drugs and how they work and what they're using them for. Cancer, I think, is I, cancer is I think cancer is like the biggest disease that we don't have much of an answer for. You know what I mean? Like, there's heart disease, but, and I'm not a doctor, not a medical professional, so it's hard for me to say this, but, heart disease, we typically think of that as something that you can control. You know what I mean? Diet, exercise, that type of thing. Diabetes, there's some like neuropathy stuff, right? Brain and nervous system stuff. But for the most part, I think most people are afraid of cancer, And so what Merck is doing is they're just going like full force into this cancer thing. And they're trying to figure out how to kill cancer, period. Like, even with Keytruda, even though it's approved for and used for lung cancer, they're trying to figure out how to use it for renal cancer. They're trying to figure out how to use it for breast cancer. I mean, the list goes on and on. Another thing that's really important to discuss here is that in June, we received a cash dividend and a share of Organon. Organon is a spinoff from Merck. Organon is comprised of women's health. I don't know what's in there, but it's comprised of women's health medicine. So we only have one share at about $30, and then we got cash of like $15. But that's a huge dividend. I mean, you're talking about $45 on a stock that we paid $80 for. You know what I mean? Well, I'm sorry, $1,200 for. So still, I mean, that's a decent piece of money that we got out of Merck. We're currently down 3% in the position. Program calls for 14. We have 15. So I don't think we're going to do much with that position at the moment. The health sector has been not a drag on the portfolio, but it's just been humdrum since the beginning, since 2015. It's just been humdrum. So we'll keep at it and see what's going on. All right, Fastenal. Fastenal, I do not have an earnings call for. I believe I had one on the last video. But, they've been doing decent for us. We do have a sales signal. Fastenal is in the new portfolio, so I don't know what's going to happen here. The program is calling for 200 shares. We currently only have 20, which means we are way, way under allocated in that position. If I get some more cash into the portfolio, I will definitely look at selling some options to purchase more shares to make some money that way. But as of right now, like I said, we're cash strapped. And so there's just not a whole lot we're going to be able to do. And because the portfolio is calling for us to own Fastenal, we're not going to sell it either. So it is what it is. All right. Southern Copper Company. This is, a copper company. And so a lot of what's going on with them has to do with inflation. It has to do with the price of copper. There's also an infrastructure deal in the midst as far as the current administration goes. And so all that plays a part in what's going on with this company. Currently, we are up about 3%. Before, though, you can go back and look at the other videos. Like, we were way up in Southern Copper Company. The price has come down quite a bit, primarily due to inflation, because, as inflation goes up, things cost more money. And so, yeah. So anyway, that's that. Program is calling for 17%. We currently have 15. This company is not part of the portfolio. And so even though we're not at that 10%, I will look at possibly selling out of this position, depending on my analysis of the company that, it is calling for. All right. Regions Financial. This was a company that we just recently purchased. We made about $1,300 in options, and they were called in. And so we are in now. What's interesting is, so we're in the company. we have, we purchased the stock for $26 a share. Okay. Um, right now the stock is at $20, right? Um, and so, of course, that means that we're way down. Okay. And that's the reason why you see a buy signal here. But again, like I said, we're cash strapped, so definitely not going to buy anything at the moment. Um, but what's interesting here is that if I were to sell out of this position, right? Um, because we made $1,300 on the options, technically I'll be selling at a profit because if I sell, my loss would be less than 1,300, and so yeah. But for now though, we're gonna hold on to it. I may look at selling some call options on this thing, depending on what kind of deal I can get. You know what I mean? If I can make 100, $200 to sell this thing at $26, and it's fairly what's the word I'm looking for? Not too far out, So like if we're looking at an option for, let's say, September, October time, right? If I can sell this thing for $26 and put 200 cash in my pocket right now, I'll definitely look into doing that. I think I have gone through options in videos before. I usually don't. Maybe I'll do that this time. I don't know. It just depends on how much time I have. All right. Hewlett Packard. We're currently down in that position. Program is calling for 37. We have 60 shares. We're down about 7%. I don't have an earnings call for them. The last earnings call I did go through, they did talk about having a problem getting in parts to take care of backlogs. And so for me, that sounds really good. You know what I mean? Because that means that they have a bunch of orders that they're trying to fill, right? But they need the parts to fill them. And so that's really cool. They're making decent money, decent dividend. So we're going to stay where we are. And like I say, we're cash strapped. So I'm going to keep saying that because we need cash. We need cash. So I'm talking to all the partners right now. Bring cash. All right. WP Carey just went through their earnings call the other day. They are doing excellent. What they do is they are a REIT, meaning that the company itself does not book any profit at all. All of the profit gets paid out to the shareholders. And so that's really cool. The program is calling for 14 shares. We currently have 15. We are up in the position about 15%, so we can definitely sell here at a profit. WP Carey deals primarily in industrial real estate. Public storage is one of their biggest customers. They do have an interesting deal right now. It's a small deal, but it's interesting, right? Where they partner with this company. They don't say who it is, but they partner with this company to construct retail space on the Vegas Strip, right? So they basically gave this company a loan, right, at 6% interest. So the company is going to pay them back at 6% interest. Once the construction is complete, WP Carey will then have the option to either purchase the property or take like a minority ownership in the property. And so that's kind of cool. But what they do is they go in and they buy real estate, like I said, from like public storage. And this happens primarily in Europe and the US, right? So they purchase the building from public storage and then they lease the building to public storage, right? And so a lot of big companies are doing this, especially if real estate happens to just be a part. Well, how do I say this? When real estate just happens to be something that they have to do, it's not necessarily their main focus. You know what I mean? Like public storage is a storage company. They just happen to be in real estate because how is she going to store stuff? You know what I mean? And so a lot of times these big companies they will own the property, and then what happens is the property increases in value, and it makes sense for them to sell the property at a profit and then just pay rent basically. Okay, and so what WP Carey does is, and this is something that I'm really concerned about, is that they lease out the property to these companies, and then just like most landlords, they have built-in rent raises. Right now, most of these contracts that they're putting in have about a 2% increase every year, right, tied to inflation. But in a lot of their contracts, if inflation goes above 2%, they cannot raise the rent above 2%. And so that's an issue, especially when you're dealing with a real estate company, because in real estate, there's not a lot of cash floating around. You know what I mean? I mean, mostly what they do is they borrow money to then purchase real estate, and they're making money off of the lease stuff, right? That they then use to pay the loan. And then, of course, they have expenses, blah, blah, blah. And then, like I said, the rest of the money is then paid out to shareholders. So they don't have a lot of cash. Matter of fact, going through the earnings call, most of their cash, like almost 90% of it, is not cash at all. It's their credit line at the bank. So what that means is that if inflation, really starts to get up there, I think that's going to really hurt the company's numbers, and then I think that's going to affect the stock price. Of course, that may not happen specifically because stock price has a lot to do with the market and what people are willing to pay for the company. And it's amazing what the market, quote unquote, cares about. You know what I mean? Like, you expect that the market would care about the inflation rate for a company like this, but they may not care at all. I mean, who knows? I think 30 to 40% of their contracts don't have those type of caps on them, but most of them do, right? The other issue comes when a company that you've been, and another thing I want to say, the leases that they put together are like 20, 30-year leases, okay? But what happens is sometimes is that you have a company that gets to the end of their lease and they're like, all right, well, we're done, right? And now WP Carey is stuck with a property that they're not generating any rent from, right? But they still have these expenses that go into it. So that's a bit disconcerting, but we haven't seen a tick up in that type of activity year over year. So, it's a non-issue until it is, right? All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about our orphan positions, just because it's been a while, plus we have a new one. So Energy Transfer Partners is a stock that we got way, way, way back in the day due to an options sale where I think we had like 101 shares, and options are for 100 shares. And so when we sold, we were left with one share, and instead of selling that share, I decided to just hold on to it. Energy Transfer Partners is based in Dallas, Texas. It's a company that I've worked for personally, and I've always loved the company, what they stand for, how they operate, and they have always paid a huge dividend. So we just hold on to it and collect the dividend, just one share, but what does it hurt? Like I said, if we need the cash, we can always sell it. I don't know what the price is right now, but yeah, sell it for a profit, but it won't be much. All right, Macerich is what I call a legacy position. It's the very first, 2015 when we first started. I think we purchased just one share of this company because we didn't have a lot of cash, and so we purchased one share of the company. The stock never rose above that $82 price tag to warrant selling it. Matter of fact, right now Mega Rich is down to like I think $16 a share, and so that's the reason why you see this buy signal at like 54%. But again, who cares? It's just one share that we have, and we just sit back and collect the dividend on it. I think what I will do though is I'm definitely going to keep my eye on these orphan stocks, because if in fact they cease to pay a dividend, then it may be prudent to go ahead and sell it at whatever price versus holding on to it. Annaly, similar to Energy Transfer Partners, where we had an option sale, and so we had 10 shares left over. Again, Annaly is a real estate / financial company where all they do is sell mortgages. That's all they do, right? They borrow money, let's say at like 4%, and then they sell a mortgage to somebody for like 5%. That's it. That's all they do. But they pay a really big dividend. Decent company, and so we'll just hold on to it. All right, Organon is our new orphan stock, and as you can see there, we did get the company for $30.86. I was not sure how to book this actually. Kind of why I want to talk about it, because like I said, it was a free share, so technically we didn't pay anything for it. But because we got the share at $30, I figured, if we sell it, it's 100% profit, right? But I don't know. But anyway, but that's what I did. So it was a free share, but I booked it as though we purchased it. And so if we do sell it, our profit will be, whatever price is above $30. All right, so that's it for August 2021. I'm going to end it there.